The American dream used to feel real. If you would work hard, you can find a stable job that will allow you to buy a house, build a family, and have a decent, calm life. But if you look around, life is getting harder and harder. More and more people are living paycheck to paycheck, and the idea of owning a house is becoming unrealistic for more and more people. Credit card debts and student loans are skyrocketing and are hitting new records every single year. On one side, the US economy is hitting a new record every single year. On the other side, the number of people who are living paycheck to paycheck is only rising each year. It seems like the American economy is broken for the young people. If you're in your 20s and 30s, most likely you will struggle. And your parents, your father and your grandfather, had it much easier. And this is just a fact. If you look at the numbers, buying a house and building a decent life and having a comfortable life back in 1960s and 70s was way easier than it's today. American government systematically over the last 50 years has been destroying the middle class and probably purposefully has created the biggest wealth inequality humanity has ever seen. And as I dig deep into this topic, I found out that the situation is way worse than it seems. I know that at first glance, that seems like a conspiracy theory. If you don't believe me, let me show you. 1940s and 1970s was the golden era in American history, where the average income could afford you to pay your basic necessities and also buy a house. The great thing about houses is that for almost all of history, it was the main tool to build wealth. So if your income allows you to buy a house, you buy your house. Even if you get a mortgage and house prices are affordable and you can pay off your mortgage much earlier, as time goes by, even if there is inflation, the value and the price of your house keeps rising. And if you build your first property, that will make it easier to buy your second property and then the third property. And over time, you're simply going to get wealthier. The people who purchased properties back in 1960s and 70s for $10,000 to $20,000, these properties, the exact same houses today worth $2 to $3 million. But this was only possible because the United States was the main driver engine of the global economy. You see, between 1939 and 1970, without the fault of the United States was in a very unique position. You can see that exports of the United States has skyrocketed to levels that we haven't actually seen, even though that the rest of the world was as advanced as the United States. And that's because the rest of the world was going through World War II and it was actively destroying itself. And they needed to finance their wars. They needed to feed their armies. They needed to manufacture equipments and weapons to ensure that they win the war. This is how the world looked like. You have the United States at the center, and then you have all these countries are fighting each other, and all of them buying things from the United States. While goods are coming out of the United States, money is coming into the United States. So it doesn't matter what business you did back in 1940s and 50s. If the US market is too competitive, just export your product to European Union, to Japan, China. It doesn't matter. You have the entire world as one giant single market. And they're very ready to buy those things from you. And back in the days, they paid you in gold and not just pieces of papers. And even when the world was over, most of these countries needed decades to rebuild their economies. France and Germany, the UK was entirely demolished in World War II. China was fighting a war with Japan and then a civil war. That's why both of these nations were entirely destroyed, even the Soviet Union. So the United States emerged as this single power that supplied the rest of the world with industrial goods as they started to build their economies. So if you're in the UK back in 1950s, you need equipment, you need companies, you need technology, and all of that was imported from the United States. And that's why it doesn't matter what business you did back in 1950s and 60s, you could make a lot of money. But the US economy is still growing until today. So if prices are rising on one side and wages are growing on the other side, we should have the exact same economic model. And that's what the data suggests. that since then, inflation has been at around 2.5%. Yes, there has been some spikes back in 1970s and 80s, but nonetheless, it calmed down and the average inflation historically was at about 2.5%. Now, if you compare that to wages, wages have been growing faster than inflation. For example, back in 1990s, wages have been growing at about 5.5% when inflation was at about 5%. So the average American shouldn't have actually gotten poorer. But if you look at the numbers, life just got a lot harder and more people are living paycheck to paycheck. Why are these numbers don't make sense? Why numbers are showing to us that the average American got wealthier while in reality the average American got significantly poorer? That's because the United States pulled one of the biggest scams in the history of humanity. You see, back in 1971, the United States entered a new era, an era of cheap money. That allowed the government to print money essentially as much as they wanted. In fact, they printed more money even before 1971. And that's when they realized that if we do not get out of this gold standard, because we cannot possibly back all of this gold with real money. So they abolished the gold standard and they started massively printing money. But if you think about it, it's supposed to create massive inflation. But if you look at the numbers, we did not have massive inflation except back in 1970s. After that, it stabilized. That's not because it did not create massive inflation. That's because we simply changed the way we calculate inflation. You know, they say that it doesn't matter how you vote. It matters how they count it. It doesn't matter how much the real inflation is. It matters how they count inflation at the end of the day. So the first thing they did is they removed housing from inflation. So if house prices, for example, increase by 10% annually, then that would be part of inflation. So inflation would be really high. Because for the vast majority of people, unless you are super rich, housing makes up a huge portion of your expenses. But when you print so much money, a house is an asset. So house prices began to skyrocket. So the government is like, let's stop including housing prices into inflation numbers and change it to something like a housing equivalent to owning a house. Suddenly, inflation numbers started to come down. But the second main adjustments that they made was that hedonic adjustments. So basically, they came up with a very simple argument that if the quality of the product is improving and the prices increase alongside the quality, then that's not inflation. If we increase the quality of your camera next year and we increase the price, well, technically the price of iPhone has increased, but in the eyes of inflation, it did not, because the quality of the camera increased. So that increase in price simply reflects a better quality. For example, if we increase the camera, but the price of iPhone stayed the same, then that's what we call deflation. So basically, in the eyes of people who calculate and do the math for inflation, since 1970s and 80s, as the quality of technology kept improving, they do not count that as inflation. Yes, every single year, car prices are rising. So if you buy the same Toyota next year, it will cost a little bit more. If you buy the same BMW model, it will cost you slightly more. But it's not reflected in the inflation numbers because inflation numbers say the latest BMW has additional features that justify the price, so that's not inflation. And suddenly, if you look at it from that perspective, we don't have any inflation at all. Take healthcare. If a hospital, for example, improves the quality of the service and raises their prices, it is not inflation because the hospital simply is providing a better service. Or if we are improving the quality of a technology and we are producing it on mass scale and the price per unit has decreased, then we are going to count that as deflation and suddenly inflation numbers drop. So in reality, when you look around, the cost of living could rise by 10-20%, but then the inflation report will say that it has only increased by 2.5%. So if we actually look at inflation number from that perspective, suddenly we realize that the average wage has grown, for example, by 3 to 4% since 1960s and 70s. According to them, inflation has increased by 2 to 3%. So wages on average has been growing by an extra 1 percentage point. So the average American today should be living and should be wealthier than the average American back in 1960s and 70s. But if you look at the real life, you will find out that the average American today, or more and more people, are living paycheck to paycheck than they did back in 1960s and 70s. And that's because the real inflation, if we count it the way it is, by including, for example, house prices and also not making the hedonic adjustments, then the real inflation is anything between 7 to 10%. And according to some experts, it might be even higher than 10%. And now look at the situation from this perspective. Over the last 60 years, wages have been growing by 3 to 4%, but the real inflation has been growing by 7 to 10%. A single year won't make a huge difference, but over the course of 50 years, each year compounds. And that's why life became so difficult, and basically the idea of even owning a house became unrealistic and is becoming unrealistic for more and more people. Personal income back in 1981 was adjusted to inflation after counting inflation, was a little over $26,000. Fast forward to 2024, that number has grown to $45,000. This is a 70% increase. And looking at this number alone, you can make a claim that the average American today lives a far wealthier life than the average American back in 1981. But if we look at house prices during the exact same period, that's when the shocking statistics kicks in. The same house back in 1981 used to worth $66,000. Today, the median house price have grown to $410,000. That's a 500% increase. So your income rises by 70%, house prices rise by 500%. Do you see why they got house prices out of inflation numbers? And now let me ask you, in your real practical life, do house prices impact your life? Well, of course, without having a roof over your head, you don't have life. That is one of the basic necessities that you have to spend money on. It directly impacts the quality of your life. In other words, real wages compared to real inflation over the last 50 to 60 years has been consistently going down, which is why today we're witnessing the biggest wealth inequality that humanity probably has ever seen in its history. But there was one window of opportunity that absolutely changed everything. If you Google the top 50 largest companies in the world, you will find out that most of them are tech companies and most of them are US companies. They're not European companies. You will find a few of them Chinese, but it's mostly US companies. So the question comes into mind, why are most tech companies are US companies? And that's because back in 1990s, when the dot-com revolution was taking place, it was happening primarily just in the United States. It wasn't actually happening anywhere else other than the United States. Germany and France, for example, were busy creating the European Union, and they were excited to launch their new currency, which we today call the euro. China was just opening itself up to the rest of the world. Japan was going through a major financial crisis. The biggest bubble in Japanese history just burst. The UK was trying to figure out how on earth to deal with its empire that completely collapsed and was trying to find itself into this new world. And Russia was trying to prevent itself from a complete catastrophe. And the US economy was booming. An internet revolution took place right over here, which made the United States even more wealthier than any other nation on the planet. Internet created the new rich people. Most people today who are rich made their wealth because they built the internet or they invested in the internet. Two types of people. It's very difficult to build a company with a new technology, but if you can't do that, then you can jump and invest in that company, which is why in 1990s the stock market turned into a bubble because everybody was passionately investing in internet companies. As long as they realized that this company has potential, they jumped in. They knew that most of these companies will go bankrupt, but they did not want to miss this opportunity because it was once in a lifetime opportunity. A $10,000 investment into Amazon back in 1997 today would worth almost $9 million. So imagine if you went with $20,000, $30,000. Yes, $10,000 was a lot of money back in 1990s, but most people, if they worked hard, they could invest an extra $1,000 or extra $2,000 or even $10,000 that would turn into millions of dollars later on. And whoever had any spare money, they would invest massively into 10, 20, or 30 of these companies. No one else had this opportunity. No one in the European Union, China, or the rest of the world. And the only reason that China could compete today with the United States when it comes to tech is because China realized that we have to close our country to American tech companies. So China did not allow Google, Amazon, and Facebook to get into China and dominate China. And it helped its local companies to dominate its industry. Because unlike many other nations, China is a huge country and it has the second largest population in the world, which is 5 times the United States. And that advantage allowed China to build a tech sector that rivals the United States. And now we are in the second window of opportunity where AI revolution is taking place. But unlike the first revolution that happened in 1990s, this revolution is not simply taking place in the United States, but it's also taking place in China. So we have a real rivalry. The world today is not as it was back in 1990s. It's very different. So many countries have built up their infrastructure and are competing with the United States. And the next revolution that will happen after this AI will not primarily be in the United States, or not just in the United States and China, but most likely in the European Union, India, and the rest of the world, as these countries are developing their nations very quickly. So this AI revolution that mostly today is taking place in the United States is probably the last chance for the average person to invest and take advantage out of it. Just like $10,000 in Amazon back in 1990s would have turned today into $9 million, a $10,000 investment into AI today could also easily turn into 9, 10, 20 or $30 million. If you take the traditional path, the government will keep telling you that you're actually getting wealthier when the real inflation is rising faster than ever. And with a huge deficit that the government is planning to spend over the next few years, the real inflation will actually rise way faster than you can imagine, and you're only going to get poorer. So the only path to get wealthy now and to get out of this cycle is either to start building AI technologies, but most people can't do that. Most people have lives. Most people have jobs. Most people have responsibilities. Most people are not interested or don't have the time to do that. But the second option is to invest in these companies. So this is once in a lifetime opportunity that you must absolutely not miss. If you want to find out what are the top 5 stocks that you should be buying right now, then check out the first link in the description of this video. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.